Hello, so today's video is going to be about looking at the difference between increasing and decreasing sequences. So I'm sure if you have a guess at the difference, you can probably guess what it's going to be. So let's look at some examples of increasing sequences. You've got this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on and so on. 3, 9, 27, 81, and so on and so on. So multiplying by 3 each time in this sequence here. And then this one, -1, -half, -third, -quarter. So what are increasing sequences? Well, all these sequences here are getting bigger and bigger. The terms in the sequences are increasing, so they're called increasing sequences. They're getting bigger and bigger. And how about these ones down here? So decreasing sequences. So as you can imagine, they're getting smaller. So -1 to -2 to -3 to -4, 10 to 7 to 4 to 1, -2 to -4 to -6 to -8. These numbers are getting smaller and smaller. So they're decreasing sequences. So let's look at how we would generally write like a definition for this. So let's consider a sequence. So consider a sequence an plus 1 equals a function of the previous term in the sequence. So the next term in the sequence is generated by some function of the previous term where f is a real to real function. So f just takes a real number and maps it onto a new real number. So if an plus 1 is bigger than an, so in other words, if an plus 1, the next term in our sequence, is bigger than the previous term for all n, so for every term in the sequence, if the next term is bigger than the previous term before it, then this sequence is increasing. So if the sequence is getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger forever, it's an increasing sequence. So let's look at some examples here. So we've got this first one here, an plus 1 equals an plus 1, with a0 being 1. So the first term is 1, we've got that there. And then to get the next term, we're going to do the previous term plus 1. So 1 plus 1, you get 2. Then the next number in the sequence is going to be the previous one. So 2, then plus 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's our next term. And then the next term in the sequence is going to be the previous term. So 3 plus 1 to generate the next term. That's going to be 3 plus 1, which is 4, and so on and so on. So that's the first term. Sorry, the first sequence. So it's an increasing sequence. How about the next one? So we've got, again, the first term of 1. So that's our first term there. And then the next term in the sequence is going to be 2 to the power of the previous one. So 2 to the power 1 gives us 2, so we get 2 there. Now, how about the next term in the sequence? So 2 to the power of the previous term. Previous term was 2. 2 to the power 2 gives us 4, so we get 4 there. And then the next term, so 2 to the power of the previous number, 2 to the power 4, we get 16. So that's that one. And then the next one, so the first term is 2, they tell us it's 2. The next term in the sequence will be the previous number, 2 squared, which is 4, and then plus 2, that's going to give us 6. The next term in the sequence is going to be 6. And then the next term in the sequence is going to be the previous term squared, so 6 squared, 36, plus 2 gives us 38, so we get 38, and then so on and so on. So those would be 3 examples of increasing sequences. How about decreasing sequences? So let's consider a new sequence where the next term in the sequence is generated by a function of the previous term in the sequence. So if the next term in the sequence is always smaller than the previous term in the sequence, then it's called a decreasing sequence. So if a sequence is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller forever, it's called a decreasing sequence. So we've got some examples here. So the first one here, an plus 1 equals an cubed minus 1. The first term in the sequence is 1 because they've told us that in the question. The next term is going to be 1 cubed take away 1. 1 cubed is 1, take away 1 is 0, so get 0. Then the next term is going to be the previous term cubed, so 0 cubed, which is 0, take away 1 to get minus 1. Now the next term in the sequence is going to be the previous 1 cubed, so minus 1 cubed, which is again minus 1, take away 1, we get minus 2, and so on and so on. So that would be that sequence there. Now, how about the next sequence? So the first term again is 1. Now the next term is going to be half of the previous one, so half of 1 is a half. The next term is going to be half of the previous one, so half of a half is a quarter. And then the next term is going to be half of the previous one, so half of a quarter is an eighth, and so on and so on. So again, this is a decreasing sequence. And then how about the last one here? Our first term is 10, and then the next term is going to be 10 take away 3, so it's going to be 7. Then our next term is going to be 7 take away 3, so that's going to be 4. And then our next term is going to be 4 take away 3, so that's going to give us 1, and so on and so on. This is a decreasing sequence. We've got 3 decreasing sequences there. So in summary then, An increasing sequence is a sequence where the next number in your sequence is bigger than the previous one for every single number in the sequence. And a decreasing sequence is where the next number in the sequence is smaller than your previous number in the sequence for every single term in the sequence in which that can be true for. So that's the difference between increasing and decreasing sequences.